You don't have to go looking for it. You don't have to spend your day trying to figure out what's wrong with me that keeps me from completing things, okay? Take a deep breath and exhale. Good news. It's right here, okay? You don't have to spend your time looking for what's wrong with you in order for this to continue to evolve and to transform and to change. Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Art of Awakening podcast, where the art of living awake becomes a daily practice. I'm your host, Dr. Sue Morter. Today, I want to talk to you about the things we begin, but we never quite complete. Ooh, okay. So the course that you purchased but never finished, the project that's sitting half done, you know what I'm talking about, the conversation that we keep postponing. Every once in a while it surfaces and then you manage to find something else to think about instead. You know, we often call it procrastination, a lack of discipline or even an inability to follow through. But leaving something unfinished is not always about laziness or lack of conscientiousness or caring. Sometimes beginning feels exciting because it's filled with possibility, while completing asks us to become visible. Ooh, okay. So just think about it. So, you release an old identity, or you discover what comes next when we actually complete things. And so then what? We're moving forward. We're actually moving into a creative disposition when that's happening, when we complete things, and we don't know what's on the other side of that. And so we have a tendency to dig our heels in or get dispersed or find something else to do, instead. So today we're going to explore the energy of unfinished things, what our avoidance may be protecting, and how conscious completion can return scattered energy to the body and rebuild trust within ourselves. So if you're thinking right now, maybe I don't even want to hear this thing because I got some of this stuff going on, don't touch that dial, okay? Because, there's a happy ending to this, okay? Very, very. Right. Let's begin with the many things that remain half done, the unfinished project, the unanswered message, the decision that we keep revisiting, wondering, do I need to rethink that? Looking back, questioning ourselves, the conversation that we know we need to have, but we just don't. Unfinished things continue to hold our attention. And this is a problem because it's a dispersal of your creative source. It's a scattering of your energy. You're now held on this unfinished project, and parts of you are held in this other one, and parts of you are constantly churning and trying to process something. But until we focus up the energy and pull it together, there's not enough potency to pierce through some veils, and especially veils that get created if we've been operating this way for quite some time, because now we have evidence that we kind of don't finish things, or we get our hands into too many things, too many irons in the fire, or that kind of thing. And so now we have an opinion about ourselves that now gets shoved into the subconscious. And I want you guys to get this one. If there's an opinion of yourself in your subconscious that you're not enough, or that you don't finish things, or that it never really works out for you, your subconscious is constantly trying to prove that to be right, because that's what it does. The subconscious is always looking for, survival and safety and that kind of thing, until we open it up and let it become conscious. And so if you have a belief about yourself based on your own personal experience that you don't finish things, or you don't complete, or you never really seem to get the job done, you have lots of good ideas, but they never seem to manifest or flourish, then your subconscious, if you've decided that about yourself because of past experience even, so it's not like you made it up, but you have this past experience, it's stored at this subconscious memory level. And so it's constantly trying to recreate that. It's trying to prove that to be true, because it's what you're honoring. It's almost a prayer, believe it or not. Whatever you believe or think about yourself, and it gets put into subconscious memory, it's as if a constant prayer is being prayed that says, please don't let me finish things, because that's who I am. That's my identity. And so in order for me to, exist, this has to remain true. Well, we're going to change all that, because it's a loop, it's a cycle, it's a system that runs our lives, and it's what we're here to transcend, to transform. It's why we're here. So don't let it stop you. Let it invite you into, oh, that's where my work is. Oh, this is where I'm supposed to be digging in and unpacking this and taking a look at this instead of being afraid of it. We're here to dissolve it. And that alone can be life changing if we begin to recognize. Okay. So unfinished things do hold our attention. And so we're going to rearrange that. They remain active in the background. Part of our energy stays connected to it, and we may feel tired without even knowing why. We may feel scattered, like we can't listen. We'll even call it attention deficit, but it's actually not a conflict that you hold. It's not an affliction that you are the victim of. It's something that you're creating over and over and over again. Again, somebody will say, well, what if it's my ADD is a chemical imbalance? Well, I say, what do you think is causing the chemical imbalance? It's the use of consciousness. It's how we're operating. We may be stuck in patterns that have been doing it on autopilot and we didn't even know it. But the whole thing comes down to consciousness. And you getting into your body is how you're going to slow that whole thing down enough to be able to unpack it, to be able to get into the places that you've been skipping over, that have your wheels spinning, that have you unable to finish things, and have you, in the pain patterns that you're in. So, let's just take a look at some of these things. Starting and finishing are different energies. Okay. Starting is excitement, inspiration, enthusiasm. You're opening to possibility. Creativity is flowing. Finishing creates form and structure. So one is the engagement of flow. Finishing is completing a loop and generating a something. Okay. So they're both obviously extraordinarily valuable and they're meant to work together. All right. So completion asks us to let something become real. And so if you're having a hard time completing things, I assure you that it is related to a pattern in your unconscious that is locked in to, I'm afraid of what I create. I kind of blow things up. I don't create good things. I mess things up. There's something in there, and you don't even have to go in after it. It's going to reveal itself. It's revealing itself all the time. You don't have to go looking for it. You don't have to spend your day trying to figure out what's wrong with me that keeps me from completing things, okay? Take a deep breath and exhale. Good news. It's right here. Okay. You don't have to spend your time looking for what's wrong with you in order for this to continue to evolve and to transform and to change. Okay. So the more you're on subject, on self, the more you're gathering photon density in your own core, the greater a sense of true self gets built. The true self completes things. The true self wants it to move through to fruition because the truth self is here to birth things. It's here to create and generate newness and a new reality completely. It's here to create new soil to stand on, new form to live inside of. The shape of your life changes when we allow this whole flow through the continuum, pouring into the earth, rising up, cycling around, filling us up, and projecting out in front of us is by design a completing of a cycle. And it's setting you up to do more of the same over and over and over every day, allowing you to manifest. And if we're not using that system the way that it's designed to be used, we don't get to experience that version of ourselves. So the protective personality, it may perform in ways that allow us to be guarded and safe. And it likes to think in terms of potential. Yes, I could do that. I'm pretty sure I could do that. I could do it better, maybe even than they're doing it. But we don't for a reason. And the reason that we don't is that the protective personality doesn't want to be judged. It doesn't want to be compared. It wants to lay itself out in a way that is kind of stealthily hidden in a way. So when possibility is just possibility, it remains in its perfected state. So an unfinished dream cannot feel like a failure if we're just leaving it out there in the buoyant field of possibility. And so what we have to do instead is recognize that when we're allowing something to land and to be completed, it's going to be perfect no matter how it lands or what it is. It's going to give us feedback as to how we could tweak or alter our perception of self and do it again and again and again until what we're manifesting is in alignment with the perfection that we can dream of. It's no different than playing a game of tennis where we're holding the racket in a certain way and we're swinging it in a certain way, and the ball either goes where we want it to go or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, we adjust our swing, we adjust our grip, and we just swing the ball, we swing the racket again and again and again and again. And when we allow that kind of disposition, that come from in life, what begins to happen and what begins to unfold in our lives is the manifestation of that potential in its purest form. It does perfect along the way. So if we keep it unfinished, we never have to deal with it worked or it didn't work. So the key is this: bring it around to landing so that you can get the feedback and not take it so personally and just begin again and begin again and begin again. Completion makes us visible. I know when I was just writing my most recent book, oh my gosh, I was covering topics that were going to make scientists think again, make theologians think again, make people who were devoted in their spirituality and their religion possibly have to think again, and also invite, not making anybody do any of this, but inviting them to please think again. Please update what we're all walking around in, because quantum science is showing us things that, aren't being infused into some of our traditional ways of thinking. And so I knew that as I put all those pieces together and put it in print, packed it in a little book and put it out into the world, that it was there. And I also know that, centuries ago, and not so long ago, and still today in some ways, people are being severely punished for doing such things. People were burned at the stake. People's lives have been, destructed because of new ideas, because of the world and the way that it has operated. So you want to talk about being seen. Were there some sleepless nights? Was there some circuit building on my part? Absolutely. I definitely had to drop inside and say, there were moments where I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to do this. I don't know of course I'm going to do this. And I don't know if I want to, but I'm going to. And I would ask, would I be okay if I left this planet and didn't share what I know from personal experience to be true? If those personal experiences and perspectives could help someone else's life be better, could disseminate some of the pain that they are in, could confirm some of the ideas or the experiences that they're having, would I be okay if I didn't do that? And the answer was, absolutely not. And so, completion was the only answer. Publication was the only answer. And this is our life. And I have to say that going through that and going through with it and completing that loop and being on the other side of that has been one of the most liberating experiences I have had in terms of embodiment, in terms of actually allowing the enlivenment that happens in my consciousness to be good enough for everyone, to simply roll it out and to be ready to hold conversation with anyone who didn't agree or couldn't understand or wasn't interested in any sort of freedom being expressed inside of our humanity, that I am now in that place and feeling better than I've ever felt in my life about possibility. So the flourishing of new ideas and creativities and beginning new things, of course, remains alive and is enlivened and supported. And of course, there isn't a doubt in my mind that completion of all the things, of all the courses and all the schools inside of the Institute and in all of the ways that I can be of service are absolutely happening every day. There's no holding back. Why would I? Why would you? What's to gain by holding back? To live a life that you never got to live by keeping something suspended and just dreaming about it all the time? It's not the level of fulfillment that you are destined for. Yes, it makes you visible, but when that happens, you have a sense of self that is second to none. And inside of that, your digestive system heals. Inside of that, those chemical imbalances of ADD or ADHD or whatever the case may be, those immune system issues, all of it changes because you're allowing the energy to flow through you. The universe functions cyclically. A cycle, a vortex of energy is landing and embodying. And as we hit this earth, we spiral upward and we start to evolve and express. And we go through a cycle of creating and sustaining and being nurtured and letting go of things that are no longer necessary in our lives, and then inventing an even higher version of ourselves in our own consciousness. And that cycle is supposed to be allowed to continue. And so in that cycle, completion happens. And if we're not allowing completion in our lives, that cycle that is a cosmic, and think of when you look into the constellations and the galaxies and the spiraling effect that we know to be true in the golden mean. And when we see this inside of the spiraling of the nautilus, the seashell, that spiraling of your own DNA is a very real expression of how creation, how potential manifests. It does so by cycling in on itself and compressing into the density of physical form as we know it. And that cycle is supposed to complete inside of you by you allowing your dreams to be spoken into, by allowing your desires to be lived into, by allowing yourself to choose toward what is true for you, period. And allow what nature would have happen, because the universe is on your side. The whole thing is in your favor. But if you're not in the game, it's really hard for that to happen. So we have to let go of trying to control things. We have to receive and perceive the truth, what is true for us, and to step into things in accordance with that. And when you do, this divine continuum pours through your life, and you start having, partners show up differently. Friends show up differently. You have a greater, deeper level of authenticity and clarity that happens in your relationships and your interactions in life. And it's sustainable. And people call upon you that were judging you before and ask you for advice on how you're living your life. How is it that so much success is pouring through you? How are you not exhausted? How are you not burned out? And it's because I'm not doing anything. I'm just aligning. I spend my energy aligning with what's trying to pour through and trusting it and letting it happen and pouring. I'll joke about it. I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on. But inside of it, I completely know what's going to happen. All that I'm going to do is follow this pouring through of the creative energy that's trying to pour through. So it doesn't come through perfectionism, because perfectionism is you just digging your heels in and hiding the fear. And that all happens because you're not aligning in the deep core and allowing this continuum to pour through you. You run it through just one more time. You try to practice something one more time. You find one more reason that it's not ready or that you're not ready to go. You're finding all the ways to not say yes yet. Just don't. Let it be messy. Let it be beautiful. Let it be human. Because what happens right there in that human moment is divinity ignites your personality. Divinity ignites the possibility, the purity, the trust of the process. That whole thing happens naturally when you simply come home to yourself. And so when you land in your body and you're not in that perfectionistic mindset, you're in your heart and you're allowing something to, let's just see. Let's just go see what happens. Let's just unfold. It reminds me of another story of a patient. I wrote about this in the Energy Codes book. One of my patients was, she was delivering a baby and she fell off the table when they were giving her an epidural, and she had a spontaneous delivery, and the baby was rushed to emergency care, and she was out cold, and she came to 3 days later, and I met her 3 years later, and she was not able to, function in life. She had never picked up her child. The child made it, but she was just unable to function. She was carried into my office, basically, kind of walking between her husband and her father-in-law. Like as she was walking in a canoe. Her whole equilibrium was off, and so many things were happening with her system. And we started working with her with the work that I teach and the courses that I teach, and worked with her with the hands-on work of bioenergetics that I teach and train people how to do. And she healed. And in her healing process, we would ask her questions like, we were having a golf outing. My clinic was having a golf outing, and we were like, so do you golf? And she's like, I'm sure I do. And she, do you play tennis? I'm sure I do. Let's go see. And that became her way of living. I'm sure that I do. And what it does is it allows you to step into the unknown. And completion happens when we're willing to do things like that. Sometimes we delay completion because it generates change, but you're built for change. In fact, change is the only thing you can pretty much guarantee is going to happen in your lives. It's the one thing that's going to happen. Even if you resist change, your body will change. If you resist change, your body will break down. So change is going to happen. Like, it's coming through, and it's not asking permission. Change is the inevitable. It's the one thing that you can rely on for certain. So if we are in the space of embracing change, then completion of our projects will happen. We will finish the degree. We will end that relationship that isn't really where we're supposed to be. We will step into that new expression or experience in life without hesitation. The mind may want the entire path to be clear before taking one step. We wait because we want certainty. We attempt to solve the problem for the whole future. I can hear it when I'm teaching people things. They'll immediately dig their heels in, and then when we start unpacking it, they're like, "Oh, I just have to pay attention to what's right here in front of me, and take one more step instead of trying to figure out the whole thing before I begin." So procrastination can be an attempt to avoid a feeling. And it's an interesting thing. When we are procrastinating, we're actually circling back around so that we can pick up on an energy that we tend to ignore or deny or resist. When we procrastinate, it will cycle energy back around, and it will cause you to feel boredom, vulnerability, possibility of disappointment. It will cause you to live in those energies. And so the interesting thing is, no matter what we do, the universe is always trying to teach us how to be more completely the fullness of who we are. How to heal things, how to stop denying parts of ourselves, how to embrace parts of us that we have shut down in one way or another. The universe literally is always going to find a way for that to be resolved because it abhors a vacuum. And when you're suppressing some part of yourself, there's a deadened energy there that you are generating. And the universe won't have that. It's going to wash right through that at some point. And so if you're feeling boredom or you're feeling vulnerability, if you're worried about the possibility of disappointment, here's what is happening. You're being forced to go back into yourself and feel energies that you're afraid of feeling. So if you'll allow yourself to just feel the vulnerability that you feel for the projects that are unfinished, if you'll allow yourself to feel the disappointment that you have in yourself, or the fear of disappointment that someone else might have in you for not finishing the project or being able to, complete the cycle in some way. If you'll just allow yourself to go ahead and feel it instead of resisting the presence of that feeling, what happens is your procrastination can actually contribute to your awakening. So even procrastination isn't the bad guy. So I want you to really start to unpack this in a front side of the model sort of way. And what I mean by the front side of the model is I'm here teaching people about quantum reality. I'm here teaching people how to understand what unity consciousness actually is. And so if we say, I'd like to complete things, but instead I procrastinate. I'd like to be a good person, but instead I'm a bad person. There's no place for that here. That's not what we're doing. I want you to see that every single choice that you've been making ultimately is contributing to unity consciousness. It's all, you can't get away from it. Healing is happening all the time. The only thing that you have to do is embrace what is. So if you feel ashamed or vulnerable, or you feel stagnant, or you feel fearful of disappointing yourself or others, or all the guilt that can come with all of that, if you will just feel those feelings right there, just take it right there and unpack this, because you can cause flow to happen, which begets completion. When flow is happening, completion is inevitable. It will happen. So if you've been avoiding the vulnerability of being seen, or being out there in some way, or you're avoiding the vulnerability of feeling the disappointment if this doesn't happen, or it doesn't turn out the way you want it to, take it on. You have an entire community of people supporting you in doing so, because every single one of us inside of this community are doing the same thing. In our own pace, in our own way, we're taking it on. And so if you will allow yourself to feel the disappointment, feel it. It's just an energy. It's not going to kill you. It won't. And I remember talking to myself this way: Sue, just feel the fear. Just feel it. It's not going to take you out. Not feeling it will take you out. Not allowing yourself to feel the vulnerability, not allowing yourself to be exposed. I remember 30 years ago talking to myself this way: it's not going to kill you. It's just energy. Okay. And when I put those pieces together, it was like, oh, and oh my goodness, what unfolded in my life has been my dreams, more than I would even allow myself to dream. Truly. The power is in your hands. Feel the things that you don't want to feel. Take them one at a time. Take them in little bitty bites and breathe with it. If you keep breathing and you learn what I'm talking about inside the Anatomy of Awakening, for instance, you'll see the map of the God body. You'll see the map of consciousness, how it pours in and hits the earth and rises and pours right through you. And you'll be able to show yourself, sense and feel yourself connected and aligned with this greatest power on earth. So you don't have to do it alone. You have to do it, but you don't have to do it alone. And I don't want you to do it alone. I want you to be an active part of this community and allowing your life to transform, not just plugging into a podcast and listening every once in a while to some great ideas that come through. Put it to work in your life and watch what happens. So even in the procrastinations, even in the delays, even if you are protecting, love the part of you that's protecting. Love the part of you that feels afraid. Feel those feelings. And it's the equivalent of loving that part of you, and flow starts to happen again. So it's pretty amazing. So when we have new ideas, when we allow for the novelty of the creativity, there's an immediate access and a sense of aliveness to just, spark it and spark it. So take on a new idea that even my procrastination is a good thing. Take it on as a new idea. Allow that to be the energy that generates the spark of creativity and puts you back in the driver's seat of your life. You may become attached to starting over, and a new plan begins to unfold, and it feels clean, and a new routine feels hopeful, and beginning again can prevent us from meeting the messy middle or the all or nothing thinking that interrupts momentum. What we have to do is allow for fluidity in our lives. And so you can begin again, and you can appreciate that messy middle by saying, I'm feeling the fear. I'm doing this thing. I'm going to breathe right with it. I'm going to breathe this continuum right through my body, and I'm taking a step right into this. And I'm going to complete this thing because one step at a time is the only way it ever happens. When we get into the all or nothing, we shut ourselves down, because the universe isn't that way. It's one breath at a time, 1 inch at a time, 1 step at a time, 1 moment at a time. And so if that has to begin with you loving the part of you that procrastinates, like smile at it, like, oh my God, what are you doing? What is this? What is this? What is it that shuts you down in this way? Like you're talking to your whole personality. Like, what are we doing here? Because we're interrupting this flow. So let's rearrange some things here. Let's let this reorganize so that we can let this continuum pour through us and live a life that we're meant to be living. Because when we're in this all or nothing, if you miss one day, it's like, boom, abandon the practice, forget about it, I'm all out. One mistake becomes proof that it's not working. We're so ready to prove our wrongness. That's what we have to change. We have to just move into a different state. It's just ours to do. That's why we're here. Not everything that's unfinished, needs to be completed, but it does need to be addressed. You do need to lay your eyes on it and take an inventory and update to see, maybe I actually don't want to finish that. It's not who I am anymore. I don't need to do that. Maybe I was doing that project to prove myself in some way, and continuing on with it would just etch and ingrain those circuits of the protective or the performing personality even more. And so maybe your super conscious self is saying, just go over this other way. Don't even do that. You don't even need to be doing that. It's a waste, and we'll just have to disentangle that at some point in the future. So take an inventory. Take another look and make sure that the things that you're beating yourself up over not finishing are actually, needing to be finished. And maybe they don't. So maybe you don't have to beat yourself up in this way. Maybe some desires belonged to an earlier version of yourself, and some commitments were made under obligation or before you landed in your core and actually could say thank you now and feel good about it. So take an inventory and clean the slate. Some of these, rearrangements will feel so creative to you that it will put you right back in the flow that we're talking about, this whole picture. Consciously releasing some of these things will complete a cycle. You're consciously releasing an uncompleted project, but that's a completion. You're completing the whole idea by, just cleaning out the closets, clean it up here. Let's just rearrange. Let's do some, inventory update. And so while we're doing this, we're separating, quitting, by this conscious idea inserted into it. And all of a sudden, the list got a lot smaller and the weight feels a lot lighter. So avoidance just leaves energy locked in. Avoidance and pushing it away. So completion means finishing it, taking another look, letting it flow, choosing to let go consciously and intentionally. So ask whether these desires are truly yours. Ask, this is a good one. Did I choose this, or did somebody else choose this for me? Do I really want to be doing this, or is this just like one of the things that came with moving around with the herd and, going in and operating the way that people operate? Is it really in my heart of hearts, or maybe it's not? Maybe it's not even. And so am I continuing because I still feel called, or am I continuing out of obligation? The body can reveal what remains alive so easily if you just invite the deep inquiry. Your internal self will share the truth. And when you start to recognize what feels true, like just right now, let's just take a deep breath. Just take a breath in, deep in your belly. A little deeper, bigger, and just exhale. When you feel to exhale, just exhale it into the earth. Just drop it down in. Just ground yourself. And then take a breath up from the earth and breathe up in. And let yourself feel connected right now. I mean, you're being loved on with such magnitude with this conversation. The truth is pouring in to the space that we're sharing. And so feel it. Just let yourself feel that. Maybe even you take the backs of your fingertips and just gently touch them together and inhale and bring it right up through your whole central channel and exhale out your head, out your crown, and then just feel your hands just pouring out as if you're fountaining this energy and it's just pouring into your hands, just raining into your hands. And let it, and slow down a moment. And there's just a beautiful thickness in the air when you start to do this. And so just trace that toric field again where you breathe up this central channel and exhale out your crown, and you're feeling this pouring into you. So that's a yes. The yes that you feel when you're doing this. And if you're like, no, I don't feel it, just take a few breaths and rest your hands and just be present here and know that you are being loved every moment. And especially accentuated, right now. And just accept and receive that. And let it be true. What would it feel like in my heart and in my solar plexus where my ribs splay apart, where if I got punched, it would knock the wind out of me. But I'm just going to take some breaths, right? Try to breathe right into that area and just soften it. What would it feel like in my body if I did know that all was fine? In this moment, all is fine. I might be worried about something that my kids are going through or what's going to happen at work the next day. But right now, in this moment, am I okay right now? Yeah, I am. Okay. So that felt sense is closer and closer to the truth. And every time you practice it, it gets more and more filled and refined with the truth. And so when you're trying to see if this list of things that are unfinished in my life actually need to be finished, it will feel this way if it's a yes. And if I could actually let it go and it would feel more true, then letting it go would feel like this. So you use these bodily sensations, and I teach it obviously in much more detail in the side of coursework, but you can get a feel for that. You can start to trust that and recognize that if it feels expansive and opening to you, then it's yours. It aligns with you. It's yours to let go. If you're thinking, I'm letting go of this, and you feel that openness, then letting go of it is the key. If you're thinking in terms of completing it and it feels like this open and expansiveness, then completing it is yours to do. So sometimes we feel a heaviness around something, a judgment for the incompletions, and we're not in a state to be able to make logical, brilliant decisions about it if that's the way it feels. So you start to look for where's the yes. Is the yes in letting this go? Is the yes in completing it? And then you have a newly refined list. You have a new take on what's here to unfold. And then the actions that you take will be coming from an embodied place, an aligned place, an updated place. And as such, we become a clear container for completion when we are aligned and integrated. What's happening now is we're allowing this cycle to cycle. We're not getting in the way. We're not suppressing it. We're not pushing it aside by some belief that we generated, earlier in our lives that is just running our lives. You can disassemble those beliefs, breath by breath, by living as the one who's not dependent on them. When I'm in my true self and I'm feeling this flow pour down into my body and reveal, I'm allowing for my true essential version of me to live the life that I'm living here. And so we start giving the energy somewhere to go. We start pointing it and directing it, and we complete this cycle before we open up another one. People can become addicted to starting things. But when we sit down inside of ourselves, we want them to follow through. We remember, we notice, we are living alive inside the process. And leaning in and having that conversation or engaging in that project that we just keep putting off, it allows the power of the universe to pour through. And you will be guided on what to say. You'll be guided. There'll be more presence. There'll be more ability, more spaciousness, so that the conversation doesn't have to end in another argument. You don't react because you're here. You're landed, you're anchored in your body, and you're able to see how others react and become reactive, and you don't buy in. You simply keep leaning in with a desire to complete a communication and a connection in ways that maybe you haven't experienced for decades, if ever. So when we're in the body begins to register these senses of leaning in and of completion. And as the body is registering these ideas that something has completed, a sense of self is honored. A sense of self begins to rise and to fill the vessel, and the cellular structure begins to vibrate in a different frequency. And that frequency is memorized at the cellular level. And now you're walking around as someone who does in fact care, and someone who does in fact have the courage to lean in, and someone who does complete things, and someone who does manifest. And so that in turn projects a different energy out into the movie that you're walking through, and you attract even different circumstances, ones that resonate with someone who does complete things, one who can handle new opportunities and see them through. And so we begin generating a new reality based on just one completion. When we're conscious and in the body, that impact generates a ripple effect through every cell and every system, and the chemistries of your body begin to change. They change from someone who's caught up in fear and self-judgment and guilt and shame and hesitancy and filled with an illusionary idea of self that is lacking and less than. The chemistries change into, yes, I can, yes, I did. And those chemistries start to generate patterns of function and perceptions of self and life in a way that we are emanating a different vibrational frequency. And we are then attracting, of course, in kind frequencies. So others who also get things done are now attracted into your life. Others who believe in you because they believe in themselves and they know what it takes to have projects complete. There's a mutual appreciation happening. And all of a sudden you find yourself in a community of people who are encouraging you and celebrating you. And you are encouraging you and celebrating you. And you are encouraging others and celebrating others. And when that happens, we're actually living in a reality. We're creating a reality for ourselves that is based upon fulfillment, destiny achieved, completion is the name of the game. Why would it not be? We came here to fulfill a destiny, to land and completely bring ourselves wholly, fully here, to incarnate, to embody, to have a life experience as a divine presence being human, to have the opportunity to be curious and to create and to inquire and to heal, to dig into the crevices and to transform human consciousness by doing our own part in that. And in that, the most fulfilling experience, the most fulfilling energy rushes through your system every day. And you're filled with gratitude and appreciation. And you're willing to share and to go the extra mile, knowing that it's how things work and that your divine destiny is constantly being guided. You are constantly being stewarded into the fulfillment of your destiny. Many people struggle and they don't ever receive that kind of energy, but you can, because you're here landing in the circumstances and a systematic approach to them that allow for the great victory on earth, the fulfillment, the healing, the destiny, the awakening. That's what we're here for. And so we don't have to minimize our accomplishments. We can celebrate. We don't have to envy or look upon another and compare or compete, and types of things that we speak about in other episodes of this Art of Awakening podcast. Instead, we are living in collaboration. And now the body is receiving signals of success, and it is emanating same. And we're generating a reality collectively that allows for a new reality, a new vibrational frequency. And truly, friends, in that reality, the past does not exist. And our patterns do not require constant attention. We don't have to hold on to ways of operating that validate some false version of ourselves. The subconscious instead is more interested in validating what new awarenesses you're building. Because all the while, every time one completion happens, there is a new chemistry and new information is stored at this same subconscious level, replacing other vibrational frequencies that are of a more dense and unenlivened nature. And so the highest vibration wins. It replaces and replenishes information that is stored at the subconscious level. And now what is happening is the superconscious, this divine continuum, is pouring in, hitting the earth, rising up, and not being subconscious anymore. We're awake to it. We're aware that we're operating as a creator in our lives instead of pausing, holding back, procrastinating, digging our heels in, not wanting to feel all of the things that happen when we're actually out there manifesting things. Instead, we're tuned into, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what is guided. This is what is intended. This is what is meant to be. And it's meant to be for me too. So when we can let ourselves feel some of that, take a breath right now. Take a breath in your belly and stretch open your solar plexus and let your mind become aware of what you're feeling in your heart. Because whether you're feeling inspired and active and expanded, or you're feeling trembling because some part of this is true and you don't know where it's headed for you, just celebrate it. You've got this. You truly are held by this system. You cannot do this wrong. You can only do it long. And so we want to collapse time on that and allow ourselves to be in the completion, in the celebration of the awareness that it's meant to be for me, and the recognition that things that are unfinished do not need to steal my energy anymore. And so you ask yourself the questions, What if the unfinished thing continues to hold my energy? Where is that happening in my life? Is there some place that I could direct this conversation directly to? Because it will snap the bind. It will dissolve the constriction around it just by you bringing your attention to it now, particularly when we're in this together in this moment. So then you ask a question: does any unfinished thing need to be completed, or does it need to be released? Well, let's just get in motion in some way. And then ask, what is the next most honest and embodied action that I can take toward this release or this completion today? What simple little step could I take? And ask yourself, where in the body could I build the circuitry to allow that to be easier? Where in the body could I build the circuitry? Your mind is going to go there. You've got this. It's always wanting, mind, body, and breath. They're always wanting to work together to make your life more than what it was before. It's always trying to happen. So just let that be in your favor. So if this conversation speaks to something that you've been experiencing, I invite you to explore more of our teachings and practices through the links in the show notes. I'm always providing that for you as an offering for you to awaken to the true life you're intended to be living. It's not about improving yourself. It's not about reinventing yourself. It's about discovering the true self that's underneath all these layers that we've packed on in an attempt to just get by, make it in this world. And you are meant for so much more than that. So thank you, as always, for spending time with me in the Art of Awakening podcast, where I'm blending science and spirituality and dropping it into these practical applications for you so that you can start to feel yourself operating differently in your life because of our time together. Because you're intended to be living a life that you love living. And I want to show you how to create that. So much love to you all. Until next time, I'm Dr. Sue Morter. Blessings, blessings. Bye-bye for now.